It's OPB Politics Now for Thursday, May 28th. I'm Dirk Vanderhart, and this week we've got a special treat for you. OPB reporters recently spent months looking into Lakeview, a tiny southern Oregon town with huge financial problems. They were interested in what went wrong in Lakeview and what lessons the town could offer other places facing similar dynamics. OPB's podcast, The Evergreen, just dropped an entire episode looking at this, and it's so good we're putting it into your Politics Now feed this week. Enjoy.
I currently wash my hair in my kitchen sink with my reverse osmosis water because I'm so desperate for my hair to come back.
Sunny Rigg is a hairstylist at Sheer Experience, a salon in Lakeview, Oregon. She started noticing some of her clients' hair felt brittle and easily broke. At first, she thought they might have some underlying health conditions.
And then it became obvious that it was everyone I was seeing. And then I experienced it for myself. If we see people who move away and then come back for a visit, it's like, holy smokes, your hair got long.
The water in Lakeview comes out of the tap discolored, sometimes as brown as Coca-Cola, and smells like rotten eggs. That's because of the sulfur, a smell that gets stronger as it heats up. In recent years, Lakeview's tap water has contained manganese, iron, and lead at levels that exceeded federal limits. That's according to test results from the local hospital. But that's not the only challenge the town faces.
The town has overspent its resources, overcommitted long-term debt, and so basically what we have to do is figure out how to manage our debt.
Lakeview is a former timber town, and it struggled to rebound from the collapse of the logging mills that once powered its economy and helped the community survive in this isolated corner of southern Oregon. The town is currently millions of dollars in debt that it can't pay off. Now, residents who love their home are trying to save this place. Can they do it? From the Gert Boyle studio, I'm Jen Chavez, and this is The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB about the place you call home. Today, the story of Lakeview, an extreme example of the pitfalls facing governments across Oregon's tight-knit rural communities, where departments face high turnover, scant oversight, and meager resources. OPB reporters Bryce Dole and Joni Audenland spent months reporting on the town's struggles and went on a week-long trip to Lakeview, where they witnessed a town beloved by its residents, but whose future remains uncertain. Lakeview is a small town in southeastern Oregon that borders California.
I think it's hard to overstate just how remote it is. I mean, just imagine you're driving there and you're going through just hours of open, high desert, Oregon outback landscape, and then just out of nowhere, this tiny town pops up at the foot of the Warner Mountains with Goose Lake in the distance. It's very picturesque, very pretty, but it is, I don't want to say desolate, but it is just like very remote. And
very isolated.
And there just isn't anything around for miles. And once you get into town, it's very clear that there isn't a whole lot happening economically. You go to the downtown, which is very cute. Has a lot of cool old buildings, but they're a little run down. A lot of them are empty. They have for sale, for lease signs on the front. And, you know, this town's only 2,000 people. People are driving around in their large pickup trucks. And for the most part, it's pretty quiet, sleepy little town, some homes scattered about. It's really, quaint rural town, I think, is a good way to describe it. Wouldn't you say, Bryce?
Yeah, just to show how remote it is. The nearest town is about 100 miles away, and that town is Klamath Falls. And if you're from Oregon and if you've been to Klamath Falls, like Klamath Falls is rural already. So Lakeview is really kind of the central hub for this area in terms of like medical care. It's got a hospital. It's the main area for public services, for shopping. It's really essential for, the way of life of a lot of people who live in this very, very remote part of the state.
Lakeview is the county seat of Lake County. About 2,400 people live there. It's known as the tallest town in Oregon, at about 4,800 feet above sea level. There are even giant cowboy statues in town that pay homage to the elevation.
And it's kind of got like a Wild West vibe.
For fun, the town hosts a roundup every year with rodeo events. They've been doing it for over a century.
I think ranching culture still is like the dominant form of like fun. I remember we went to the bar, one of a couple bars they had in town, and they had like bull riding on the TVs. Hunting, fishing, especially hunting, I think is really big there. And just any sort of like outdoorsy stuff. They do have a ski hill, so skiing is somewhat big there during a certain time of year.
It's got Oregon's only geyser, which is called Old Perpetual. And that's like basically connected to, or it's like right next to this like resort that has like geothermal hot springs. So yeah, like, I mean, I think a lot of those things kind of show like this town is still trying to hold on to a lot of the things that make it unique as it's facing these severe struggles.
The Neon Cowboy, the roadhouse and resort with those hot springs, is a town favorite. And according to Joni and Bryce, a great spot for a bite to eat.
Truly like a really nice, awesome restaurant in the middle of absolute nowhere.
What did y'all have at the Neon Cowboy?
Oh my God, I had it was steak and fettuccine Alfredo. It was freaking delicious. It was awesome. I still think about that honestly.
Another interesting Lakeview fact, it's so removed from light pollution that it's right outside what's now designated as the world's largest dark sky sanctuary. One resident put it this way.
You know, Lakeview may not be in the middle of nowhere, but we're certainly on the road to it.
Lakeview was once a prosperous timber town. Before, as many as 7 logging mills powered the town. But now, there's only one. So, what made things so dire?
I feel like, there decades ago with the problems with the mills closing, that is like one starting point with the town struggles, right? But as far as what we're seeing now, I think you could point that toward like 2022 with certain town leadership coming in, and definitely a lot of residents seeing that as a starting point where you started taking in more debts.
One big project that the town was betting on was a proposed refinery meant to replace fossil fuels by converting biomass into jet fuel.
A lot of people just call it the Red Rock Power Plant. This was basically this massive industrial site that is on the south end of town. And a lot of people thought that this was going to be, kind of the next economic driver for the community to provide jobs and to, again, boost this region's economy.
The town borrowed money from the state to build infrastructure backing the project, and Lake County commissioners approved a long-term tax break. The former town manager of a decade, Ray Sims, who retired in 2016, says,
So when you're in a little place like Lakeview, as remote as we are, opportunities don't come to you like that. Everybody was hopeful, I guess, that Red Rock was going to be the economic engine that was going to begin to drive Lakeview again.
That project actually, it failed under hundreds of millions of dollars of debt. And that happened right around the time that basically this pipeline that used to generate millions of dollars in property tax revenue for local governments, that went bankrupt too. So taken together, all of that just had these really big financial consequences.
That 1-2 punch was a major financial hit to the local government, forcing agencies to lay off staff and leave law enforcement positions unfilled.
The town still owes like about $2 million in loans for that infrastructure. The project does have new owners now, and the owners say that they're going to assume that debt, but that's only just getting started now.
Another prime example of the town's debt sits gathering dust in a cluttered workshop. Lakeview Public Works foreman Pete Fortune took Bryce and Joni there to see boxes stacked almost to the ceiling full of thousands of feet of pipe. It was all meant for a project to replace water meters in each home, but town officials bought way too much.
We were guessing that they bought 100 foot per house, which that's grossly over. Because a lot of the time it only took like 10, 12 feet to go from the main to...
10 times the pipe, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is only a small portion of it. There's more in another building. So
The boxes contain more than $386,000 worth of pipes, valves, and other hardware. All of these pipes, which the town has no plans to use, are symbolic of a town on the brink of financial collapse.
And it's unclear to even Pete Fortune, who's the public works foreman, like, why was this ordered?
I honestly don't. I don't understand. I don't understand how it got ordered this much. So I honestly don't know.
And it's kind of indicative of just sort of like the runaway spending on some of these projects that really puts the town in a financial pinch, because that's money they got to pay back now at $40,000 a month.
Officials say this is Lakeview's most expensive quandary. It stems from a contract with a company called Sustainability Partners, LLC, for an upgrade to smart meters that can remotely track residential water use. But they can't afford to pay for it. The town stopped making those monthly payments last July, and the company filed a federal lawsuit last month seeking nearly $6.8 million in damages. Lakeview is trying to lower the contract's price tag by arguing it wasn't legally approved. State and local officials also place part of the blame for Lakeview's financial situation on the town's manager from 2019 to 2024, Michelle Perry.
She allegedly was not qualified to run the finances of this town, or that she had taken over financial control of this town and essentially didn't know what she was doing, didn't know how to keep a budget, wasn't tracking spending properly. People alleged that she was using town credit cards on personal purchases. There were also accusations, and this is probably the most alarming accusation, is that she allegedly forged her employees' signatures on reimbursement requests for this big project to get a new water treatment plant in town. And according to these allegations, she had a folder on her computer that said signatures. And you open up the folder and there's like 5 or 6 like of her employees' signatures there, including, the mayor, the public works director, the town attorney, just concerning stuff, to say the least. And so that all comes to light in, late 2023. By 2024, she's basically forced to resign. She resigns from her position, later takes a job as a city manager in Shady Cove. And when I called her to ask her about all of this, she essentially denied it all.
Yeah, people are making lots of accusations against you, Michelle. I just want to make sure you have the chance to respond to them before we run our story. And I want to make sure it's fair to you that you understand what's being written. Is there a time we could speak about that, or how would you like to do that?
I actually would like to not have the story run at all. It has been a very painful experience that I don't want to revisit it, because it was based on inaccurate information and opinions. The bottom line is that there was no anything found. There was no criminal activity that I got cleared. Everything has cleared. And there's nothing there.
People are saying you had a folder of signatures on your computer. Is that true?
No.
So the pictures they have of like folders and these signatures, and I'm sure you've seen in these case files, where do you think those came from?
I don't know.
Not your computer, though, you're saying.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Joni and Bryce had gone to court in Lakeview and found a search warrant that had been served at the town hall, where they seized all Michelle Perry's computers and devices.
Just don't want to talk about it, because it was really bad, and none of what they said was true. And I think it was a witch hunt, and that's all I need to say about it.
Well, why do you think it was a witch hunt? There's several people saying kind of the same thing. Why do you think they would go after you like that?
I don't know.
And we should note that the former town officials went to the police with their concerns that she had been forging signatures, as well as they described, again, some of these allegations of rampant unchecked spending, that Michelle Perry was mismanaging the town's money as like it was losing track of hundreds of thousands of dollars, which, again, she denies. And the Oregon Department of Justice ultimately took on its own investigation of her, but they decided in January not to pursue any charges against her. They said that they could not prove the charges beyond a reasonable doubt. And the local district attorney said that he wasn't likely to pursue charges either. And he basically said that the district attorney's office does not have the funding necessary to pursue the case.
Yeah, like again, Lakeview has one of everything. It has one grocery store, one hardware store, and one prosecutor to prosecute every single crime happening in this county. So he basically said, we don't have the money or the manpower to really take this on, essentially.
These financial struggles have left the residents of Lakeview at a loss for basic services. The town has raised water bills for residents. They levied a public safety fee. They annexed new properties in town, all with the goal of raising new revenue to deal with all this debt that the town's in.
There's also been just rampant turnover in leadership. Back in March, there were 3 town councilors who all resigned kind of at the same time for different reasons. The town mayor also resigned around that time. And then probably, again, the town's biggest issue, its water, has not been resolved either. For a lot of residents, their water still comes out of their taps smelling of rotten eggs. It's pretty discolored. We were there, when we were staying in this Airbnb in town, our bathroom smelled like sulfur. And so
it reeked of eggs.
Smelled really bad. And so we basically were so concerned about it that we, did what a lot of residents around town do, which is we went and bought water bottles and we just drank from water bottles all the time.
The water is a really big issue. I wish we just had the money just to fix it, but like everything else, it takes time.
This is Jessica Calvin. She's the owner of Downtown Cafe and Bakery and also serves on the city council.
I'm curious, as a restaurant, how do you navigate the water here?
We sell a lot of bottled water. I do have filters. We filter water for people to drink. I have filters on the soda machine. So, yeah.
You mentioned you had to change those quite frequently, right?
Yeah, we change ours probably once a month.
It's interesting that y'all are we got water bottles and we used bottled water for everything. And that was for 1 week. And this is just life for these folks. Mm-hmm. How much money are they having to spend on bottled water?
A lot. Or they spend a ton of money, thousands of dollars on these home filtration systems. They have reverse osmosis filters that supposed to make it better. But this is not an economically thriving place. So I think a lot of people cannot afford to put these expensive filters on their home. I think what most people try to do to get around this is you move outside of town, you get on county land, you get your own well dug, so you don't have to deal with town's water anymore. The best way to live with it is to never have to use it in a way.
Some people have floated the idea of disincorporating Lakeview, but state law prevents a city or town from disincorporating if it faces any debt or obligation, and doing so would also require voter approval. And besides, residents are loyal to the idea of Lakeview. Coming up after a break, the residents who are fighting to save Lakeview, including by getting naked. Thanks for listening to The Evergreen, our podcast from OPB about the place you call home. If you're learning something new today and want more where that came from, subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, and we'll bring you new stories about what it's like to live here every Monday morning. You can also follow OPB on Instagram @OPB, or follow me directly @Jen Chavez OPB. That's Jen with 2 N's. And I'll keep you posted on what Team Evergreen is up to. Rural and small town Oregonians all over the state are struggling to figure out how to survive in a post-timber economy. What do you think the solution is, or should be? Let us know. Send a voice memo or an email to theevergreen@opb.org. And now, back to Lakeview.
I met the Sims family, which is a family of 4 who live in Lakeview.
Yeah, I was born and raised and graduated high school in 1998 and left. Moved back home in 2021, spring of.
This is Casey Sims. He and his wife, Lauren Sims, moved here from Sun River, near Bend, Oregon.
Just kind of wanted to get back to simpler times. Everything was just really crazy, and actually the schools had remained open down here, and our kids wanted to be in school, so that was a big factor.
And then they come here and realize, oh, this place has changed.
This is not the town I grew up in. It's just, growing up here in the 80s and 90s was, honestly, it seemed like the all-American dream. It really was. We had everything we needed here. Our community was tight. It was a great place to grow up. That's why I drug my family back here, just to show them, hey, this is what made me.
Casey told Joni that this little town used to be thriving.
We had 2 or 3 of everything. You could get whatever you needed in town. It was a bustling little town, really. Lots of people from out of town coming here. Lauren grew up in Central Oregon, and I played Little League against her brothers, and like even her family, they were excited to come to Lakeview. We had Hunter's Hot Springs, we had Uptown, we had bars and restaurants, and it was a fun place.
Another person who remembered what Lakeview used to be like years ago was Stan Foster, Lakeview's interim town manager since July.
He had visited Lakeview when he was a kid and kind of described that he'd come to really like the place. So after he retired, he put his name down on a list with the League of Oregon Cities of places that he would be willing to be a town manager if they needed one. So basically, Lakeview was in such a severe financial situation, and they had no town manager at the time, that he got the call and decided to start working there.
The first 3 months here, every time I was in town, I learned something else about the town that was not good. And what I encountered were people that were pretty downtrodden, had been treated pretty poorly. Beginning of every month, I found that there was another stack of debts that I wasn't aware of.
It was hard for him to understand, the full extent of the town's financial problems, because there were just documents missing. There would be, basic financial information that he just couldn't find. And so he slowly started to try and figure out ways to, one, account for some of the misspending, but then also offload some of the debt. So he's kind of made it his big mission to help Lakeview out of this.
If the town matches the spirit and the attitude of its citizens, we'll get out of this.
The more time Bryce and Joni spent with folks in town, the clearer it was how much this place means to folks. Like Georgia Getty, she's been volunteering her time, helping the town manage its money.
Her father was a millwright. She's lived in Lakeview throughout her entire life. And when I was in town hall, I basically went and I found her, and she was kind of hunched over this desk in the back of town hall.
Oh, you're going to come in
Hi,
here
Georgia.
with me?
Yeah, my name's Bryce.
Hi, Bryce.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I've had better days.
Oh, okay.
The computers.
Oh,
I
is
hate
it being a
computers.
pain?
They're great when they work, but
She had a magnifying glass up, and she had these big stacks of papers all around her.
I was actually retired. I retired 3 years ago from the county,
Okay.
and I was the deputy tax collector for 32 years over there. So I'm kind of pretty good with numbers. I just wanted to do it because this is our community. I was born and raised here. My father was raised here. We have a civic duty to take care of our town. This is our town. I don't want to lose our town, and we're already losing people. Our population's pretty slim, but our county is huge.
Another volunteer that I met, his name is Scott Stewart, and he worked in the public works department for the town for decades, essentially. And like many people, he's very frustrated with the water situation in town. He hated having to take a bath in brown water. He knew of a natural spring the town once had up in the Warner Mountains. This natural spring, which has much cleaner water. It would be used to kind of dilute the much more hard water that came out of the ground. But over the years, it had kind of fallen into disrepair like a lot of the town. There was no investment, and it basically wasn't being used.
When he felt the town government was unable to repair the Bullard Canyon Spring, Stewart and two of his friends, who are all in their 60s and 70s, decided to do it themselves with their own money and resources.
I love my town. I care about my community. Growing up, my parents always told me that if you're going to bitch about something, you need to be able to be willing to do something about it. So here I am. I bitched about it. Now I'm doing something about it.
God bless him. He would hate it if I said this. I can kind of barely walk. I mean, he was using like a hiking pole to hike around this like spring that we were walking around.
What was the most difficult part of this project?
Getting here. The hour up and the hour back.
And clearly this was not a very physically easy thing for him to do, drive up this like absolutely, bumpy, cratered dirt road. But I was just really struck by his commitment and sort of his bluntness about the issues. I think one of my favorite things he said was like, it was a shitload of work, and I'm like, yeah, I bet it was, dude. It looks like I wouldn't do this.
Another group of locals came up with a particularly creative solution. They made national headlines by selling calendars with nearly naked photos of themselves. The sales raised $43,000 for winter snow plowing. People from across Lakeview have really come together to take the town's struggles on.
That was one of the most extraordinary things to me about this story, was that as things became really dire for this town, it kind of seemed to drive this widespread effort to keep the town running and to raise money for different things.
What's happening in Lakeview is happening throughout the state. Other towns are dealing with some of the same problems, like inflation, rising personnel costs, aging infrastructure. Lakeview may be an extreme example of all of this, but it's not the only example.
And it kind of shows that, if there are these missteps, any town could wind up in a similar situation right now, which I think is pretty revealing as to just the financial struggles that a lot of local communities are dealing with. There are a couple things that are happening in Lakeview right now that could turn the tide a little bit. For example, that power plant that we were talking about, the Red Rock power plant, it has new owners that are, coming in with new plans for that plant. So we'll see what they have to offer in terms of jobs and helping the region's economy. The pipeline also has new owners as of, I think, a couple of years ago. And basically, they're all making these big promises to drive up revenue for local governments and whatnot. So, but I think a lot of people around town, are understandably skeptical of some of those promises because, they have had big hopes before about what could, be the solution here. But a lot of that hasn't worked out.
Bryce and Joni visited the town's skate park. Residents raised more than $500,000 to build it.
This was essentially, a major way for them to provide a new place for young people to come and hang out and do things in town.
They laid sod, dug up fencing, and put up a new sign. After it opened, they didn't have money to light it. So during the summer, parents parked their cars beside the park, using their headlights so kids could skate in the dark. Angie Dieter, a local banker and member of the Rotary Club, helped build it. She acknowledged that Lakeview's problems have made it harder to attract young people.
All these problems that are being reported, and so it is so hard for us to recruit young professionals and doctors and people of professions that we need because you do a Google search and that's what states what the town is. Mm-hmm. Or it's a picture of condemned buildings that are falling down.
Right. Yeah, it's not an accurate portrayal of what Lakeview has to offer. So
that's Andrew Rucker. For the people who, built it and the people who go and spend time there, it was kind of like a small example of maybe we can turn things around and, provide something new for our community, even though we've had all these struggles. I think a lot of people want to live there and want to keep living there for a long time. And I think that just, again, says something about like the grit of small communities here.
You can read all of Bryce Dole and Joni Auden-Land's reporting about Lakeview at opb.org, or find a link in our show notes. You'll also find photos and videos by Saskia Hatvani. Thanks for listening to The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB. Mia Estrada produced this episode, and our technical director is Stephen Cray. He also engineered the episode. Layla Isbell mixed and mastered this episode. The OPB podcast team also includes Julie Sabatier and Sage Van Wang. Bryce Dole and Joni Auden-Land did the interviews you heard. The music in this episode is from Audio Network. And hey, if you have a question for us, please reach out. Email theevergreen@opb.org. I'm Jen Chavez. Catch you later.
That was an episode of The Evergreen, which you can subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts. As for our podcast, OPB Politics Now, we'll be back next week with another discussion about politics in the Pacific Northwest. Thanks for your support, and thanks for listening.